Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new Fallout 76 video. So, today I thought we'd take a little look at the upcoming update that is due in December, and this little teaser kind of slipped past me a little bit at QuakeCon last week, but I've caught up now, so let's take a gander. We've got a little hint about what's coming for the December update. Obviously, we know Milepost Zero is coming September 3rd, along with the next season. Looking forward to that. And, of course, the playable ghoul class update, along with whatever else is involved in that, is early next year. The details of that are still a little ambiguous, but looking forward to it. But that obviously leaves the big gap in December. So that's going to be this update here, the Gleaming Depths. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's an interesting idea. There's been some talk around what sort of format it might take, which potentially could be interesting. But let's have a look at this trailer. Let's see what creative director John Rush had to say about it. And what we can kind of glean, I guess, from the Gleaming Depths teaser that we got, which is quite interesting. So, let's jump in. Okay, so here we go. This is the very, very end of the Fallout 76 panel at QuakeCon. And yeah, there's some a little bit of silly preamble that we're going to have a look at anyway, just because there's some really curious references in here. So, well, at least one anyway. So we'll see what we can pull out.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming out today.
Whoa!
Oh.
What do you mean?
Wait a minute.
What are you doing?
Well, hold on. We're not done.
What are you talking
We've
about?
got one more thing.
What do you mean we have one more thing, John?
Okay, so listen. We've talked about Milepost Zero, right? The update coming out soon. We know playable ghouls are returning, coming out early next year.
Looking forward to that.
You want me to get on with it, don't you?
Yes.
So what's coming in between? There's got to be something. Fellow adventurers, I want you to get those pit boys out, just like this. Get those pit boys out because the wasteland hasn't seen anything this hot since the bombs dropped. Here's a sneak peek at the...
So I'm going to pause that there. Obviously, there's the whole actual teaser to come in a minute. But get your pit boys out because the wasteland hasn't seen anything this hot since the bombs dropped. Apparently, on the PTS at the moment, I've not dived in to find it myself yet, but the entrance to the Gleaming Depths is actually available to find on the PTS, which likely means it'll be there in the upcoming Milepost Zero update in September. So we'll be able to kind of look at the entrance to the cavern. Other than that, the Get Your Pit Boys Out thing is interesting. Kind of curious as to exactly why you're saying that. Possibly that there might be a marker going onto the Pit Boy, onto the map perhaps, or something to discover via, I don't know, a signal or something in the Pit Boy when the next update drops. Possibly to take us over there so that we can stand at the edge and look into the hole and go, wonder what they're going to put down there. I don't know, something like that. But this particular preamble was very carefully planned. And if you have a look on John Rush's Twitter, for example, he's got a picture of the back of his hand, wherein he's got a bunch of notes written, just to remind him to hit certain points in this pre-trailer speech. So, yeah, that's interesting. Pip-Boy will be one of them, and the last word on it at the back of his hand was hot, which obviously he's mentioned Wasteland hasn't seen anything this hot since the bombs dropped. So, yeah, I suspect there's going to be something to find when the update goes live on the 3rd. That's my theory. Love to hear yours. But also, the hot thing makes me think that maybe there's going to be either a lot of radiation down there, or we're going to have to nuke the spot in order to trigger whatever's going on down there. Which would kind of lead to both if it's the second one, wouldn't it? But that might be the case. I wouldn't be surprised if this is nuke-orientated. We'll see. Anyway, let's have a look at the few shots that we have here that are quite interesting. And I'll see if we can't catch some interesting bits here.
The update coming out this December.
The Gleaming Depths. Depths.
Okay. So, we've got a bunch of people in their best gear marching through what looks suspiciously like the glassed cavern, actually, in the Cranberry Bog, which in September 3rd, it should become a daily ops location. Obviously, you know, they're adding new locations into the rotation fairly regularly. Glass Cavern is one. There's one in Atlantic City as well. The community centre, I believe it was. But yeah, to be honest, the Glass Cavern is an interesting dungeon to dive in as part of the main story. If you haven't got that far, push on through the Scorched Plague questline, because, yeah, it's an interesting spot to explore. Make sure you're prepared, though. And it does look a little bit like this, but it does appear to be the case that this is going to be under the ash heap. John Rush did hint earlier in this presentation at QuakeCon that the Ash Heap was the place to keep an eye on, and it does make sense that they want to do some more stuff there, because you do drop there early on in the story briefly, but it's more of a detour to find out more about the Fire Breathers than an actual major beat of the main story. And then after that, there's not a great deal that happens there. Obviously, Nuka World on Tour was added, what will be 2 years ago by the time this drops, actually. December before last, I think it was. And that's very, very cool. But, again, once you've done the stuff there, which is, again, it's a little limited. There's a few little quests and lead-in bits and pieces, but after that, it's just sort of a couple of events and a nuke event, a world boss type event. Which makes me think this is going to be similarly set up. Some people are suggesting raids, and the devs have attempted to put raids of a sort into 76 before. We had the vault raids back in the day. That did not work out very well, which was unfortunate. The idea was to dive into vaults, and their unique situations and experiments had gotten out of control and created a scenario for you to explore, but they didn't work out very well, and those got repurposed into daily ops. And of course, we've got expeditions, which are arguably a form of raid that you can do single player. I wonder whether or not this will be doable single player. They have put a lot of emphasis here on the fact there's a group going through this thing, but at the same time, with the one or two exceptions, i.e. the world bosses, just about everything can be done single player. But if they set it up similar to, say, Earl, but with more to do along the way, then you might get a happy medium with the sort of a tough boss at the end that you do need a group for, and everything else along the way will probably be semi-manageable. But yeah, that's the thing with Earl. If you do happen to nuke Earl, and assuming there's people on at the time of day you're playing, it's generally a good chance that people will show up for it, because you really do need a group of people. I'm guessing they're going in a similar direction this, but with more. So be interesting to see what's happening here. Of course, I could be wildly off base here. This is just my conclusions from what's been said and what I can see here and what sort of people have pulled out in places, so that's interesting. Getting very, very cavernous here, more mine-like. There's a speed there. And an interesting construction light. Definitely looking like we're progressing from a slightly more open sort of trench vibe into caves and mines. Mines from the look of that, because that looks like tracks of some kind. And what have we here? Some kind of underground facility. Now, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if this is in some way connected to Vault 63. As obviously that's opened up with Skyline Valley, and there's all the story around that there. And then there's big sort of connections to it, or space to connect to it in other areas. It would explain this, because Vault 63 has connections to, I suppose we'd say, off-site locations in a way. But this is interesting. It's definitely some kind of underground-looking military facility. It looks like some kind of missile silo, actually, except that it's not. I'm guessing this is a sub-boss. Here we go. So, it's kind of hard to get a really good shot on this. See if it'll play ball. I think that's probably as good as we're going to get right now. I'm trying to go through this frame by frame a little bit here, just so that you can see what we're looking at. This is a stationary sentry bot on some kind of thing, and it seems to rise up out of that pillar at the bottom there, and then just kind of revolve on the spot and shoot at you. Not quite sure what the point of it is, other than to be, an obstacle to be overcome by the player. But it's an interesting looking thing. I'm guessing that looks like triple fusion cores on its back, which I'm guessing are a weak point. Get round behind it and shoot those. Can't really tell. Looks like there's some kind of glowing thing going on around it, some kind of effect, which might be just the general effect of weapons being discharged on it, but it could also be some kind of shield that we have to bring down. Either way, it looks like a fun and interesting location. It looks like, if we look down, is my mouse going to work? Ooh, it's a bit wild. There it is. Here, that there's potentially interactable points on here. Maybe we have to trigger, I don't know, or target. Either way, an interesting looking structure and potential foe as well. Let's go back a little bit if I can. Okay. So we don't see a lot there, other than just the thing getting wailed on with a combat rifle of some kind. It does have a big red sight on the front, which might imply which direction it's going to start firing in, so giving you a mechanism to sort of avoid getting hit by that. Let's just go back a little bit. There you go, we'll run that back a touch. yeah, you can see that big sort of field of vision cone there. I'm guessing that probably implies don't get in that or you get zapped. But yeah, it might make for an interesting thing. And if it's particularly durable and high damage, it might be a thing that a group might want to tackle. Be interesting to see how that pans out. Mole miners. I don't believe I've seen that colour scheme on a mole miner before. I could be wrong, but interesting. Obviously, we're in some kind of mine shaft that looks to be related to Ultrasight and connected to that facility, presumably in some way. Possibly they're bringing Ultrasight in, or whoever previously operated the facility was bringing it in to power whatever's going on down there. And now mole miners have busted in. I wonder if this is a hint that we're going to see more about mole miners, or if they're just here as a foe because we're underground. It could be the latter. In fact, I think that's probably more likely, but I really, really do want to see more mole miner content. My personal desire is to see some kind of big underground civilization. I have ideas around this that, the mole miner community and what they might be doing and a storyline related to them. Come on, Bethesda, hit me up. I've got some ideas. That would make for a potentially fun way to explore these pretty unexplored, enemy type, but character type as well. After all, they are somewhat sentient, I believe. So, yeah, who knows? Now that's a thing, isn't it? A giant-ass cobra type thing coming out of an acidic ultrasight type pool and presumably spitting acid at us from the look of it. My first thought when I saw this, and I continue to think this looking at it, is it looks like they've taken something out of ESO and dropped it into Fallout. Honestly, I don't know what to make of this. Part of me's like, this is really, really cool. My brain is going, this is not really Fallout. Give this to the ESO folks and take a robot off them or something. I don't know. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but it does scream ESO at me more than Fallout. Maybe the wider context will offset that a little bit. Yeah, I don't know, I suppose some kind of mutated snake monster, isn't it? Perhaps the background lore to it will explain it a bit more, but this is probably, the current speculation, is it's going to be the final boss of this raid or whatever the heck this is going to be. Hopefully there's a bit more than just a single kind of nuke it and raid it type event. Not to downplay the amount of work that I'm sure the devs have had to put in to put this together, but a single focused event always feels like a bit of a small update in some ways. But then again, we don't know what's involved, how long it'll take to get through it, if there are variations, which probably not, but maybe, and sort of what might be involved and what rewards might be at the end of it. So I guess we'll find out just how big this is, and there probably will be other bits attached to the update alongside it. So we'll be finding that out between September and December, I guess. But for now, we've got a big old snake dude that looks a bit ornery. So let's roll it back a little bit. Watch that through a bit more. And he also looks a bit bitey. We don't see him spitting any poison, but we've got these bubbles forming down below that actually look like they come out through holes in the floor, so it might just be environmental hazards. And then we've got this sort of orangey, bubbly mist at the front that I suspect might be the remnants of something the creature spat. And of course the green toxic goo ultrasightness that it seems to be emerging from. That I'm guessing is probably not good for your long-term survival if you happen to take a jump into it. So, yeah, that's really quite interesting. So really all we've got here is running through some caverns, running through some mines, punching a mole miner, a sentry bot type enemy, and this guy, which is, it's supposed to be a teaser, and it sure does that effectively. But yeah, that's my big theory going forward at the moment. New kit to trigger the event. It'll be quite radioactive, perhaps. We will need power armor and or some kind of other anti-radiation type gear. And then dive down there to face off against various foes for some reason. I'm looking forward to finding out more. Obviously, between September and onwards is when we will see it, because there's going to be focus on Milepost 0, which I do need to have a little dive into again fairly soon, between now and the update. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what else they do with this and where it goes. I am curious as to see how this creature is going to pan out, because, yeah, that really does say ESO to me. It's got to be a nice, slightly clearer shot of this, with a nice unblurred frame. That's about as good as we're getting, I think. So yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts and speculations. I will be taking a look at some of the Milepost 0 stuff very, very soon, because I'm quite interested in that myself, but stars haven't quite aligned with the PTS for me on that, so hopefully we'll get to look at it in a bit more detail soon. yeah, definitely interested on some of this. It is also currently probable, and I do emphasize probable, that the legendary crafting changes will probably come alongside this update. They will not be part of the Milepost Zero update. They were never intended to be. They just want to get ahead of it and then work with the community on testing stuff out. So this is the soonest it will arrive, December. Could even be later than that, depending on how many more changes, tweaks, and adjustments they make. But this is provisionally the most likely spot for it, by the way. There's an add-on for you. Yeah, interested to see out this, and looking forward to trying out some of the other stuff to tune as well. So yeah, interested to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you found that interesting, at the very least. And yeah, if you did, likes and subs and notification bell, all that good stuff, very much appreciated. Got channel memberships down below if you want to support the channel that way as well. I very much appreciate that. And if you get a chance, say join us for live streams. We're going to be playing Fallout 76. We're playing a little bit of Stalker at the moment, which has been an interesting time. And of course, we're playing Fallout London too, which has been very, very cool. Do hope you join us for that. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.